We're the Con Guys, and this is the Con Guys Show, coming to you straight from the nerdy heart of Hollywood, California.
And this is Jim with theconguy.com.
She's been here with theconguy.com.
Katie here, aka the Con Girl.
Zordon did not want 5 teenagers with attitude.
My name is Derek Sam.
I'm Danae Sams, and that's my brother.
We are your home for news, opinions, and interviews from the world of Comic-Cons and fandoms. Your ultimate insiders for all things Move over, Die Hard. There's a brand new R-rated Christmas classic in town. Co-writer Josh Miller, who is with us tonight, takes us into the creative process of writing this crazy new holiday film, Violent Night, when an elite team of mercenaries breaks into a family compound on Christmas Eve. They are not prepared for the surprise combatant that they have to face down, Santa Claus himself. He is on the grounds, and he's about to show why this Snick is no saint. My name is Jim Fry, a.k.a. Santa's Helper. I'm one of your hosts here on the Con Guy Show tonight. This is also, we'll be sharing this on the Scare Guy Show, since this movie kind of has some crossover there. And so glad to have you guys here in the Christmas season, celebrating what I think is the Christmas movie getting the most buzz this Christmas season, and probably going to be a perennial classic. I think so. All right, what other hosts do we have with us tonight? Cheeseman?
Oh my gosh, is that a hammer?
That's a hammer. It's not quite the sledge.
I don't get you. Okay, I am Cheeseman, one of the founding members of theconguy.com, and also a screenwriter. Excited to talk about this film with Josh and about this film in general. It's awesome.
Cleaver.
Oh, hey, everybody. It's me, Ben Cleaver. I am actor, comedian, writer, etc., regular guy here on the Con Guy podcast. I apologize that I'm wearing my glasses tonight, so they're going to reflect my ring light here. Otherwise, see, if I turn it off, though, it's like way too dark, so I don't know.
Like the movie.
You never know. I mean, come on.
Change the... This is all season 1 of House of the Dragon here. But I can turn it down a little bit. There we go. But yeah, I am so stoked. I have not seen this movie yet, but one thing I'm super stoked about is we have Josh Miller on the show today. Friend of the show, been on the show a bunch of times.
Hi.
Yeah,
I'm trying to do my best Brady bunch here. All right, let's see how this is going.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, we had on the show before because he and his writing partner, Pat, right?
Yeah.
Pat wrote Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, which were absolutely phenomenal movies. And you know, it's kind of one of those. I don't know if I may throw it to Josh. Jim, did you have other things you wanted to say about him?
We just want to talk about Josh. Go ahead.
Okay. So, but the other thing is, like, Josh, you're like us. You're a geeky guy, a nerdy guy. You love your stuff. Just my first question to throw at you here is, we've got 2 Sonic movies under your belt. Now we have this movie about, action-packed Santa Claus. What is it like coming from being the nerd who loved all this kind of stuff growing up to actually having a major hand in making it happen? What's your experience? Is your mind blown right now? What's going on?
Yeah, especially on Violent Night. I mean, Sonic was mind-blowing just because, especially when we did the first one, we had never even done anything that I would say was like a modest sized success. And especially we had never worked on anything that people like knew was getting made before it came out, and having grown up playing the Sonic games, obviously it was crazy to be a new link in such a long, 3 decades long chain of a popular character. Violent Night's an even weirder thing since it's our original idea, but it's also like just a stupid gumbo of all the movies we liked growing up. There's always that part of you that's kind of just like, did I waste my time watching all these, like I could have stopped at Under Siege when you go down the like Die Hard kind of knockoffs, but it's like, no. I went all the way down to like No Contest starring Andrew Dice Clay and Robert Davi. So like, but to then kind of be able to exercise all these movies and put them into something new, it is that kind of like, I did not misspend my youth at the
you
video
did not.
store.
Josh, I got to throw this in real quick. Violent Night just opened this past weekend. It is currently above 70% in Rotten Tomatoes with a 90% audience score. We are eating it up. Me and Luke just got out of the theater. We saw it like 45 minutes ago. We just finished it up. And according to Deadline, Universal 87 North's horror action comedy Violent Night overperformed with over 13 million this weekend. It was only projected to make around 10 to 12. And Deadline said this: at the end of the day, Violent Night did what it was supposed to do. And the guy who wrote this said, I hear that Universal execs, when they were considering a green light, took the script home for the weekend and came back that Monday morning and they said, excuse me, kids, hell yeah, to Violent Night. How did it feel? Josh, I got to ask you, how the hell did you get a film like this made by a major studio?
I do know, but my initial response is
Blackmail.
I have no idea. Well, no, the real answer though is that 87 North really liked the idea, and so it was kind of right place, right time in that sense, because they had just signed a deal with Universal. When this was before Nobody came out, but they were making Nobody, and I think the idea was kind of like if they can get a movie down to this like specific price range, not that they can literally do anything they want, but I think, when you're slapping the names on it of, from the people who brought you, John Wick and Deadpool 2, it gives you a little more wiggle room in the kind of R-rated territory. But nonetheless, we were still very much convinced that at some point they would realize how much more money they could make if it was PG-13 and it would get watered down, because we always figured either the violence would get scaled back or the like gushy Xmas Christmas movie stuff would get kind of scaled back because they would worry that all the bros who want to go see like a violent R-rated action movie wouldn't want to spend a whole movie with Santa and his relationship with like a little girl and everyone like hugging each other and stuff like that. But that was always our idea. It was like, can we do an absurd action movie that also has the same level of cheese as Miracle on 34th Street or, the Santa Claus or any of the classic Christmas movies? So the fact that they did both is what I find mind-boggling.
When we were leaving the theater just a few minutes ago, there were some friends that said, wow, that was the most heartwarming bloodbath I've ever seen. It both renewed and destroyed Santa Claus for me. Listen, this is my Santa Claus. This is my Jimmy Buffett version of Santa Claus. Happy jolly old elf.
I forgot what a white beard looks like after seeing that movie.
Oh my gosh. You have both. But I'll tell you, it's a different kind of Saint Nick now. But I love the fact, and by the way, for those of you who are watching, we're not really talking spoilers for about 25 minutes. And after that, we're not going to spoil the movie, but we might talk some specifics. But I was not expecting the character arc that Saint Nick himself took, and that was one of the things that kind of surprised me about the movie. So my question, and then I'll throw it to the other guys, is where did this idea come from? Really, for real?
Well, of all the things we've done and all recently, this has the most fun backstory in the sense that this is an idea we had in high school and would kind of bring up every few years, but it was always kind of like no one would ever make that movie. It's too dumb. And then as we got close to when we actually were mentioning it, because we didn't even mention to our agents for years, but then we were kind of, after Sonic and stuff, we were kind of like, well, maybe we should try to, really get something made ourselves. So we were trying to think of sort of splashier ideas that we could do for like $1 million and, direct it ourselves or whatever. And that was why we dusted this one off, is where, well, it's a clear concept. You at least just say it's Die Hard with Santa Claus, and people are either on board for that or they're not. never even crossed our mind that this is something we could sell to one of the like major studios again, because we just thought it was like too dumb.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it should be, well, not Shudder probably because it's not really a horror movie, but you know what I mean. It's like a movie that you make. It's real weird so that it can kind of stand out amongst other sort of no budget things. Maybe do well on like the festival circuit, and you just pray that a distributor picks it up. That was where we really thought it was going to go initially, and then
now, if I may interject, if I may interject, for the uninitiated out there, $1 million is considered
nothing,
low budget.
Yeah,
like nothing for a motion picture.
Like sub nothing, really. I mean, it obviously, you know, you can make a movie for $500. I've done it back in college, but that means you can't really have anything. You can't have a crew. You can't use SAG actors. You can't get food. When I made a movie for $500, people are like, "How'd you do that?" And I'm like, my friends paid for their own Taco Bell. Like, we shot for a few hours and then we just hung out for the rest of the night. It was not a real movie.
I mean, you can't even buy a house for $1 million.
Oh, like geez,
not in LA, you can't.
Real quick, we got some people that are watching the show that just wanted to. General Gilman says, "Hello, Ben."
General, I will get back to your messages on Instagram. I promise you. It's
Andy Harrow. Andy, thank you for all the photos from LA Comic-Con this weekend. We're gonna be posting those. I appreciate that. And as always, Jonathan Wilkinson, so great to see you. Lily down south, how are you doing? It's Charlie Brown season, Lily. You and me. All right, and then hey. This is a friend of mine, Max Lark. Go blue.
That's fighting words.
These means go blue.
Let's talk about Michigan. There's a chance that Michigan and Ohio State might have a showdown January 8th or 9th at SoFi Stadium if all goes to plan. All right. But this is not a football show. We should talk football. That'd be a lot of fun. Anyways, Cheeseman.
Goal Vikings. Vikings are doing good this year.
Well, kind of continue with what you were saying about, you know, the concept and this coming about. Like, how did you get these kind of like level of attachments, you know, of the casting? And like, I know like you more wrote it and they took care of that kind of after. But like, as far as you know, like, once you had it written, did you attach anybody or some specific people to get it to this level?
No, you know, I think because it was a Universal movie, like we brought it to 87 and then that was brought to Universal because they had a deal with Universal. And then it kind of was just like in the system, you know? So, I mean, you still have to get actors on board. And we did have people who said no. I won't say who. It was not David Harbour. He was first choice, number one, and thankfully said yes. And then, you know, I'm sure once you have David Harbour on, that makes it more attractive to other people too. They're like, "Oh, I see. That'll be fun."
Did you write with him in mind or any specific?
We actually did because there's two of us, me and Pat. We usually will, you know, fantasy cast the movie in our minds, just so we're both picturing the same character. It's not even really like, "Oh, this is who I hope plays it." Since it'll often be like pointlessly star-studded, you know, like you never have this cast of, you know, Al Pacino wasn't going to be in this movie. He was not a fantasy cast, but you know what I mean? Actually, maybe he would be in this movie. Who knows? He's got a weird career at this point. But David Harbour is actually who we were picturing the whole time. Amazing. And we'd mentioned them to 87 and other people, but I don't think us mentioning him is why they went out to him. I do think there was something sort of undeniable about the idea of him playing the part. And at the budget the movie was, he was kind of the perfect sort of, you know, rising star person where I'm sure Universal's like, we can afford him now, maybe not in 2 years after some more Marvel movies come out.
Yeah.
How excited were you when he jumped on board?
Super excited. It was, in some ways, you almost hate when they tell you who they're showing it to. You almost kind of want to find out afterwards. So, like, knowing that they sent it to him, you know, it's nerve-wracking on any project. It's even more nerve-wracking when you're the writers, though, because that is the entire thing they're using, aside from money, obviously, to seduce cast in. So if they said no, you always kind of feel like, well, it's because they didn't like the script. Or I guess they weren't offering them enough money, but
it's hard as a creative not to take on that responsibility on yourself. Oh, like if David Harbour had said no and he was your fantasy cast, and then you're like, oh, the script wasn't good enough. Like you don't even, at that point, you're not even thinking about the money. You're just like,
yeah,
oh,
well,
David
especially
Harbour.
because usually when they say yes, that's often they'll be like, oh, I really liked the script. So you do know that on some level that is what they're looking at. It's kind of like, because if the studio really wants somebody, they'll give them the money. Usually actors only ask for too much money, like the famous Dennis Miller asking for $1 million on Tales from the Crypt Bordello of Blood was because he didn't want to do it. He didn't actually think they'd give him $1 million, and then they did, and it cratered that entire production. But normally that doesn't happen. Normally, if an actor asks for an insane amount of money, they're just like, well, no.
Now, to go back to what you just said a little bit ago, you said, maybe we can't afford David Harbour after a couple more Marvel movies. Speaking of, the two titans at the box office this weekend were Violent Night and Wakanda Forever. Like that, you two were the top. What does that like? Are you going out and buying a Lamborghini now? How does that feed your ego?
Well, no, because Wakanda stole our top spot. It's like, don't you guys have enough money? Come on, you've been out for 4 weeks. You got let us make some money before James Cameron rolls into town and gobbles up all the money that's ever been printed.
No, there'll be some people out there who'll be like, should we go see Avatar? Like, no, let's go see Violent Night. It's Christmas. Come on.
Ours is a Christmas movie. Avatar is not. So we are banking on that for at least some people.
Well, go ahead.
No, you go, Ben.
Oh, I was just going to say that is a huge thing too, is a Christmas movie. This thing's got replay value now automatically. Any movie that's like Avatar, you can watch that any time of year. And then you forget that you want to watch it, and then you don't. Christmas rolls around, you're like, I gotta watch Christmas movies. I watch Ernest Saves Christmas every year.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, I watch Krampus every year, so I like that creepy, like violent, crazy Christmas stuff too. So I'm assuming, and I would put money down to say that now Violent Night is going to be one of those movies for me. So how does that? You become part of the zeitgeist at that point. People are going to be like, oh yeah, did you see that movie where Santa freaking wrecks a bunch of dudes?
I mean, that was, I'd be lying if I said that from the moment we started writing it, we weren't thinking about like, oh, I hope this becomes someone's annual Christmas. Well, I still watch. There's nothing I watch every year. I feel like my holiday movies are kind of on a 2 to 3 year rotation where I'll watch Scrooged this year, and then next year I loop back to Ernest Saves Christmas, and then
What about A Christmas Story?
I was actually I've heard the sequel is better than you expect it to be.
Oh,
so
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either, but I was like, oh, I should rewatch the first one before I watch the new one.
I did see it.
That first one has a mean Santa too that kicks a kid down the slide.
Yes, jerk Santa. Our Santa's actually nice to children. I mean, that was again part of the idea of ours is like he's a killer Santa of bad people. Other than that, he's a good Santa.
Well, can we talk about that for a second? And again, we're not into our spoiler or specific part yet, but like, how did you balance the whole idea of preserving the Christmas spirit of Santa Claus for kids while at the same time delivering, I mean, for lack of a better word, you completely use Santa in ways that we never imagined possible. I'm just telling you.
I think you used the True Lies technique, maybe, but yeah, they're all bad.
Yeah. Yeah. He's punishing the naughty.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
they're on the naughty list. Yeah.
That was always part of the idea, and I guess challenge on our end was that, I mean, I love horror movies, so obviously I love Christmas horror movies, but most Christmas horror movies, are kind of, it's like the idea that they're aimed at people who don't like Christmas, so that's why they want to watch that movie around Christmas, is because things go horribly wrong and half of the family dies, or Santa Claus is the villain and he's going, it's never actually Santa Claus, it's someone dressed as Santa Claus. But we were kind of the idea of like, well, I mean, can't you do an R-rated action movie, but is a Christmas movie in the same way that The Santa Claus is a Christmas movie or Ernest Saves Christmas? And all real Santa movies kind of are about the exact same thing. It's like, oh no, is Santa going to be able to finish delivering his presents? And then, what a surprise. That's how he does, like in that sense, we felt like there was nothing even that creative other than the idea that apparently we were the only people who thought that our R-rated Santa movie should also just be a real Santa movie, I guess. That was our genius idea, was just, what if real Santa upholding all the cheesy Santa values?
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. She's been.
Well, with that, are you excited to see what the TV version of this might turn out to be eventually?
The TV edit, you mean?
Yeah. Will that be just like the most family-friendly version?
10 minutes long.
Does he even do those anymore? I was actually talking about that recently, that I kind of miss the era of the like really creative attempts to dub over swearing with just like innocent words that never end up making tons of sense. Yeah. I forget what the one from Die Hard is. Yippee-ki-yay. What does he say?
Yippee-ki-yay, fruitcake.
Well, you can't say that now.
Yeah, but something like that.
I feel like it has the word falcon in it. I feel like this is like used to be a famous thing back in the day.
No, you're right, and I just can't think
like it really makes no sense. Like the line devolves into weird nonsense. I mean, to the extent that yippee-ki-yay is not nonsense, I suppose. But I mean, I'd love to see a stupid TV edit. I just don't think they exist anymore because it'll wind up on Peacock or wherever and have parental guidance controls on it, however streaming works.
Well, even Disney Plus now has mature content, I guess you call it.
Adult content on Disney Plus?
That's I gotta
Disney
be careful
after
here.
Dark.
So, hey, let me ask you this. If we were gonna making a scale, in your opinion, Josh, and let's say It's a Wonderful Life is a level 1 of crushing your innocence, and Die Hard is a level 8 of crushing your childhood. Because It's a Wonderful Life. It's not all roses. It's kind of a sad. Well, let's put It's a Wonderful Life.
Be more of a 7. This takes it.
I mean, it depends on how you think about it. Because I feel like
this is like an 11.
It's a Wonderful Life is like it's
dark
emotionally.
Yeah.
Die Hard's just violent. Like if your kid can deal with the violence, the movie's mostly kind of fun. It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, it ends upliftingly, but Falcon Punch.
Falcon Punch. Yippee-ki-yay! Falcon Punch.
Is it Punch or Puncher? Puncher would make more sense to me. Yippee-ki-yay, Falcon Puncher.
They don't make sense to me.
What's this guy got against Falcons, huh? What's this guy got against Falcons?
I just remembered
I just looked it up. It's Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
I just remembered the TV cut of The Breakfast Club, the scene where Judd Nelson's character is saying, "Eat my shorts." They changed that to "Eat my lunch." I'm like, what is that?
That almost sounds worse.
Yeah,
why in the world would you change "eat"?
It sounds sexual in some way.
Yeah,
but the one that we always talked about when we were in high school is Major League, when he goes up to the mound and he says, "Strike this, effer out." It's the dub was so bad it was like, "Strike this guy out."
Oh, those were the worst back in the day. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hey, let me ask you, Josh. We know that the marquee actor David Harbour, he's the guy that everybody's coming to see. But there's another actress, a young little actress that I think kind of stole the show. Tell us a little bit about this actress. I mean, what has she done before? I haven't seen her before.
I mean, I mean, I don't want to say she hasn't done anything before because I'm not sure. I mean, but she's amazing. The actress who plays Trudy. I want to make sure I'm totally getting her name right here. Leah Brady. I mean, yeah, kid actors are so hard. I wasn't part of the casting process, but I know Tommy, our director, talked about, the story you always hear, especially with casting kids, is they had to watch like hundreds of tapes, because she needs to be able to do a certain level of things, but you don't want to cast her too old, pretending to be young. That's kind of the risk you're always taking if you're getting an age appropriate kid. Is will they be able to do all the things required? She kind of went above and beyond. I feel like she actually added a lot of extra cute things that weren't even in the script. I mean, that you want any actor to do, but I think with kid actors, you'll less so expect that they're going to do the same kind of stuff that a seasoned veteran like John Leguizamo will do. I think a lot of kids, you're kind of, if anything, you're almost giving them line readings and you're hoping that they're just kind of talented enough to be able to parrot back what the director's sort of half coaching them to do. But she really, took it all on herself. I don't know her full situation with her parents, but clearly everyone was on board for like, yeah, we're going to let our kid be around all this inappropriate stuff.
Can I just throw this out here?
People.
Max is one of my he's one of my best friends. But he has a little bit higher taste in movies than I do. I'll be fully okay. He says, "Remember the Night." I don't know this. It's a Michelle Leeson director, Preston Sturgis script, Ted Tatzloff cinematographer, Stanwyck and McMurray, most intelligent Christmas movie ever. That's why I don't know it. I have you heard of that one, Josh?
I have not, but I love Preston Sturges.
Okay,
as a director, I mean writer director. Not. I'm assuming this was some. Well, actually, he might. I think he was still writing movies that he also maybe produced too. But no, I don't know that one.
Oh gosh, I don't know that one at all. I'll tell you one of my
from 1940.
Yeah. About back to your film, and just so folks know, we're not spoiling the movie, but we have crossed the 25-minute mark, so we might talk about a couple of specifics. We'll let Josh decide how much of those specifics he feels comfortable talking about. My first question. What kind of notes and pushback did you guys get, if any, when you were writing the script from the studio?
Well, we got lucky on two fronts. One, I mean, I don't know if people outside of the industry would even know about this since it didn't happen. But when COVID first started in March 2020, whenever, I think that's when it was, when California at least was like finally doing their official like lockdown things.
It was March 12th. I remember that because March 13th. Yeah, March
Friday
13th was Friday
baby.
It was March the 13th, Friday the 13th. Yeah.
But that week. If people remember, the industry, remember, because that was in the era where it was like, oh, this concert's canceled. We pushed it back 2 weeks, and it would keep getting pushed back 2 weeks before everyone was like, oh, I guess this is not going to go away real fast. But at that point in time, people were still thought there was going to be a writer's strike in May of 2020. So Universal was basically like, can you guys write this before that happens? And the nice thing, and that sucks because you have to write it really fast. The other good thing, though, is everyone just leaves you alone because it's more important that the script gets done in case they have to, we all know the stories of movies that turn out horrible because their script was half done before the writers had to stop working on it. Like, wasn't Quantum of Solace? I feel like that was like some big movies have this happen to them. I don't remember if Quantum of Solace had that problem, but so we had to write it very quickly. And again, I think because Universal knew it was going to be low budget. I mean, again, it's funny, reminding people that $1 million is considered like no budget. 20 million, which is an astronomical amount of money, is that's low end of studio movies. I think Blumhouse kind of changed everyone's perception of that for a while when all of their movies were 5 million, but now even a Blumhouse movie isn't 5 million. It's hard to make a real movie. That's when you have to cut Ethan Hawke in for like back end points and stuff. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to afford like a notable lead star. But Universal was super encouraging to just like go wild with the violence. Again, we kind of wondered if at some point they would scale it back, realizing how much more money they could make if it was PG-13.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really didn't get the kind of notes you'd think. All of our notes were largely budget related. Like we had a whole different climax that was just way more gigantic and had even bigger, crazier like action set pieces. So that wasn't even a creative note. It was just like, nope, can't do that. The one thing Universal said right up top was, we probably can't see the North Pole unless you have a really creative idea how to do it cheaply. And we're like, that's fine. But I don't think you don't see John McClane's home and Die Hard 1,
They didn't want you to tear up their Grinch set on the Universal lot?
Is that still standing?
Yeah, it's still back there.
Yeah, some of it's still there. Yeah.
Why doesn't the tram tour go by it? Or does it during?
They do at Christmas.
Specifically at Christmas. I see. I did it for the first time. Well, not first time ever. First time in like 15 years. I did it in September. Best ride at Universal, I say, actually.
Me too.
Now I have a writing question. So, like, when you're working with your writing partner, do you like brainstorm like certain things, or what's your kind of writing process working together? Because me and Jim, we're screenwriters together as well. So, like, there's certain processes and ways we work best, but then sometimes we
just drink a lot and do a lot of yelling.
I was gonna say lots of fist fighting.
We've been getting better at
wrestling.
That,
yeah, it's the Hemingway method. I believe.
Throw your computers
Waking
at each
up
other.
with bruises. Yeah.
I mean, basically, it's just like at first, it's like we're just hanging out and talking about stuff, and then writing things down if we like them. And when I say writing things down, I just mean like we have like a giant, Google Doc file that we just take notes in. And then, kind of that slowly turns into outlining. And then sometimes we'll write down like a scene idea if it's already kind of clear, even if we don't know where it'll go, just like, oh, that's a funny dialogue exchange. Then we'll like write that as an actual script. But we try to have a fair amount outlined. I think it's useful when there's two of you because we don't write like sitting next to each other, sharing the same computer.
Right.
If anything, we get together all the time. And then once it comes time to like really write stuff, like back in the day, we would be at a coffee shops, both writing, sitting wherever we could each find chairs. Now we have homes we can work in. So like, now it's like we'll both be working independently at our own homes, and we kind of get back together when you reach the point where it's more about editing and rewriting and stuff. But I've always found it a little annoying to like actually be trying to like write when someone else is just sitting there. Pat doesn't care. He grew up with more siblings around his same age. I seriously think that's why. He's used to people being up in his shit all the time.
Do you remember what some of those standout scenes were for this particular film? Like when you were kind of in that process, like, oh, this would be cool, or oh, maybe we could go this direction. Like, what were some of these?
Yeah, well, especially it's interesting to me the things that are still in the movie that were always in our pitch. And I'll say this in a non-spoilery way, like the candy cane fight stuff that was part of our pitch.
Excellent.
The kind of Home Alone inspired stuff was.
I wanted to ask about that. That was amazing. I love that.
I don't want to get into spoilers there, since I know that's kind of an audience favorite, just based on looking at Twitter responses. I mean, so much of the movie was always there because we were homaging specific things. In some ways, that made it easy to get the ball rolling. Because sometimes it's like, you'll have a good idea and you're like, that idea is great. And it's like, next step, But that was one where it was like, we're just doing a Die Hard, as Rick and Morty would say. It kind of like it helps give some framework to what the movie needs to look like.
Yeah.
Now, the antagonist in this film is
Johnny Legs.
Leguizamo, who is an incredible performer, an incredible actor, compared to, we don't need to name any names, but compared to who you had in your mind when you wrote it, and then John Leguizamo getting cast, because we didn't mention him when we said, okay, yeah, you had David Harbour kind of in mind when you were writing for Santa Claus. The villain, they're like, we got John Leguizamo. What was your response to that?
Super excited, because when we were initially pitching the movie, we could always tell that the people, even if they like were laughing and liked the pitch, we could tell they didn't get it when they were like, who do you see being cast as Santa? Like Will Ferrell. And I love Will Ferrell, but it was kind of like, oh, that you're envisioning the like Paul Blart mall cop kind of comedy. Not to say that the Will Ferrell version would have been a Paul Blart, but you know what I mean? Like the full-on comedy version, where you're leaning more into the like Anchorman territory of how wacky Santa is. And we were like, if anything, you should be picturing some like, you know, kind of over the hill action star. Because that was the other idea, is that we thought, you know, we're basically doing like a Liam Neeson movie, you know, like it's homaging Die Hard, but really we're doing, I guess, more like latter Die Hards, the less good ones, but we're doing the kind of Liam Neeson, you know, kind of washed up guy who's got to like get his fucking mojo back and prove that he can still kick ass. And similar with the villain, is we were always like, yeah, don't cast someone like silly and funny or whatever. Cast someone that you would cast in the completely straight non-Santa version of this. And when they said they were showing it to Leguizamo, which I'm guessing it's because, you know, he was in a couple of the John Wick movies, so you know they do have actors that they have relationships with. We're like, oh, that is perfect, because he would 100% be like, he could have been the bad guy in like one of the latter, you know, he could have been in Live Free or Die Hard, you know, like he has that like funny but serious dramatic actor kind of dual vibe that you want for like a cool action movie.
Yep.
He's come so far since The Pest.
I was gonna say since Super Mario Brothers.
That's what I was thinking.
That was
Super Mario
probably
Brothers,
right.
first time I saw him act. But one of the big surprises or big delights in this film for me was Beverly D'Angelo coming back and doing another Christmas movie, another one that's going to be it's shown every year. But like when she was cast, I don't know if she was your dream cast or not, but did you change any of the dialogue to because she owned it. She owned that character, and she did it so well. Like I told Luke leaving, I said, I like the movie, but Beverly's character was my favorite character in the movie.
And she had that entourage sass that she had on that show, which was
that's right. Yeah.
No, I mean, Christmas Vacation, talk about our Christmas movies that are in a regular rotation. But she was another one where the moment they said her, we're like, perfect. Because, so I was saying before, like kind of our fantasy casting is often like as though this were, you know, a Knives Out movie where every single person is like the most famous person you could get. So I feel like our comp on that was like Kathy Bates, but that was really what we're saying to each other is a Kathy Bates type, like someone who's got that, like you're scared of her, you know. She's the matriarch, but she's like kind of terrifying to be on the wrong end of. And it's funny too, because just what the type of actress that Beverly D'Angelo was when she was younger, she's really aged into a whole other type. And we were so excited just knowing how like venomous she was going to be. And I hadn't seen her anything for a few years prior to this. So it was like, I felt like she'd aged like a fine wine even more perfectly into the role. Like, because we unfortunately, we were on set for 2 weeks, but we wanted to go up when they were shooting a bunch of action stuff. So we didn't get to see a ton of the kind of family, you know, all the stuff they shot in the great room. So we didn't get to meet Beverly until the premiere, but that was the first thing I told her was just like, your delivery on everything is my favorite. Like it's so good. Because that, like another thing is a scene that I thought was really fun to write was the scene where the family's all hanging around and hearing her like swearing on the phone when she keeps
Yeah.
like almost entering the room. I just remember the first time I saw the initial cut of the movie and just like hearing her voice off screen. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, Ben,
We
you
were
got to
laughing
see.
at the
Ben
theater.
will love that scene. It's just so wrong, but it's just so right. It's just like this poor little girl hearing her grandmother say the most vile things on the phone. It's fantastic.
Oh, and she's got such a great voice now too.
Oh, I know. But hey, let me ask you this. And I don't think this is too spoilery. If you don't have to, but like I noticed there was kind of like I guess the history of the actual Saint Nicholas was kind of brought into this a little bit. Did you guys have to do some research on that? And was that kind of
No, that's all completely made up.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Doggone it! I am not smarter
That
for
is
having seen this movie. No,
100% made up. Yeah, and that I won't talk. It's funny. The first cut of a trailer we saw showed that, because the idea of a trailer of just like show them all the good stuff. It's more important that we get butts in the seat. But I was happy they didn't show that because I get such a fun reaction in the audience because no one knows it's coming. So I don't say anything about that other than
nope.
But that's hearkening back to. It's a Die Hard inspired movie. Like I think I always said it was that in our mind, this was the kind of movie you didn't know existed when you were 13 and you were in the video store and like found on the video aisles. Like it was one of those like deep cut Die Hard knockoffs. But Die Hard itself was already like in that kind of increasingly tired at the point it came out subgenre of the one-man army movies that they made $1 billion of after First Blood. It's just Die Hard found a new take on it and did it so well that it then became its own thing to rip off. But it's such an important part of those First Blood knockoffs that the character's like tough or, oh shit, this guy knows how to use a crossbow. How does he know how to use a crossbow? And then inevitably there's that some point in the middle of the movie where you like learn their like weird backs, like in Under Siege, it's like he's not just a cook. Oh, he's a former Navy SEAL or whatever. So our Santa needs some kind of similar backstory.
I'd like Andy Harrow said that when he was at Barnes and Noble, he saw a Die Hard Christmas kids book at Barnes and Noble. That's
And
like a
it's
coloring
possible.
book.
Violent Night Christmas children's book coming out next year.
Well, I
so
think
guys,
that's
we are down to our last few minutes. So, all right, cool.
I was just going to add a little aside. The interesting thing with Die Hard is when it came out, Bruce Willis. Thank you. I had a brain fart. Bruce Willis was a TV actor.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
was
that's
just
right, Moonlighting.
One of the few shows my parents let me stay up to watch.
And it was just a throwaway movie. They're like, oh, he's a TV actor. No, it's a whatever. And now it's become a legendary Christmas film. So
did you ever buy his album?
I did not.
I did. I have his album. It was good. All right. Hey, so we're going to the end here. Cheeseman and Ben, I'm going to ask them a couple of real quick questions, but you guys be thinking of like our closing stuff that you guys want. So for the Instagram, Josh, your top 3 Christmas movies.
Scrooged, Christmas Vacation, and actually I haven't watched it in a few years, but like Ben, when I was a kid, Ernest Saves Christmas was definitely one of my like every year. That was an important Christmas movie to me as a kid, especially because I forget the actor's name. The guy who played Santa also played Santa in an episode of Amazing Stories, which was an anthology show I loved as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Every time I remember that Jim Varney is no longer with us, it re-breaks my heart because he was so incredible. And it's the Ernest Saves Christmas is so stupid, and it's just fun and silly, and it's got heart, and that's what is important for a Christmas movie, is that it has heart, and it sounds like Violent Night is right up there with them.
Yep. Least favorite Christmas movie. I know that's a tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough. There's been so many bad ones.
Jack Frost.
Oh no,
Frost
that's
2.
great.
I mean,
Those are actually fun.
Jack Frost or the Michael Keaton one. That is a weird. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but that's definitely one when it came out. I was like, huh.
Are there any homages in this film that we should be looking out for?
I mean, it's a lot of Die Hard, some Die Hard 2. It's funny, people have asked about specific Christmas movie montages. We had to write it so fast, we didn't actually rewatch any. I think it's just that you grow up with these movies and they're all kind of ripping off each other too.
Yeah.
Like everything's kind of still doing the same stuff from Miracle on 34th Street and the Rankin and Bass stop motion movies. So it's like we didn't even need to rewatch anything. Like it's all just back there.
Yeah, Josh, what I love about talking to you, you just love writing these crazy cool
It's the
movies,
best.
and I
Can't
and
believe
it
I'm
just
doing
seems-
it.
It's awesome to talk to you. All right, Ben and Luke, last questions.
Ben, you want to go
Luke?
first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say, with the score was so interesting in the film because it mixed in, you could almost hear elements that sounded a little bit like these classic movies like the Home Alone when they're going through the house and other stuff. It blended so well because it had the festive sound, but also kind of the action movie thing. So I just love that. And the other thing is like his jacket and his Santa get up, and as
cool.
someone that does Comic-Con cosplay, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was like the coolest red leathers. Like if they sell that, I'm sure that would
I do hope I see some Santa cosplay.
Yeah.
I got to jump on what Luke just said. Is like I like the fact it wasn't classic velvet or felt suit, big fat Santa. It was cool, kick-ass Santa and cool leather. That was awesome.
But that was another thing is when we were pitching it, people were like, "And how do you like? What's Santa look like?" And we were always like, "I mean, like Santa." What? Like, what is your question? They're like, yeah, I mean, what's your take on the Santa outfit? And I'm like, I don't think you get our pitch. It's Die Hard, but with Santa Claus. If he doesn't look like Santa Claus, kind of missing the point. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel like the idea was like what we think of Santa is more like someone saw Santa and then, drew a picture of him. So like they didn't quite get close enough to realize that it's like, oh, it's like cool leather. They just remembered that it's like, yeah, it's a red jacket with the white trim and everything.
All right.
All right, John.
Jacket.
So I know this is probably something you can say nothing about, but is there anything coming up? Is there anything that you want to promote that's coming up next on the list for Josh Miller after Violent Night does amazing at the box office?
Nothing that's like in the can and coming out. I mean, Sonic 3 is in the works. I mean, it has a release date in 2024. Those movies take forever to write and shoot, and then even longer to do all the special effects. So it's always funny that how far along the writing process already is, but it's not going to be out for. I mean, I think it comes out 2 years from now, basically. Yeah. And then we're also in the process of writing another video game adaptation of a game called It Takes Two, which was like a big award-winning game from last year that if not as famous as Sonic, but hopefully it will someday. It's a really cool game that everyone should check out. It's a great game to play with a friend or a significant other because you have to play it 2-player. There's no single-player mode.
Cool.
And we are writing it for Amazon.
Oh, nice. Luke, do you have anything else? Or Ben, do you have anything else?
I was going to say, just real quick side note, or real quick question. You saw the Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie on Disney Plus? What was your reaction to Ugly Sonic?
I thought it was funny. I mean, it's a weird scenario because the only thing I find annoying about it is knowing that if somebody else did that to Disney would not be cool about it, which I thought was a little hypocritical.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, just that design, the design scandal, it made me happy. Just the weird way that Sonic is just infused in pop culture now to the point where a whole other movie has a character making fun of the version of Sonic that doesn't even exist anymore outside of, the trailer still being on YouTube.
Josh,
So I'm
that's
like,
when you
wow,
know
what a
you've made
world.
it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
When people make fun of you, that's when you know you've made it. Wait until you get.
Yeah, I used to say you knew you made it when you made something that got like a porn parody, but that's close enough.
All right. Josh Miller, filmmaker, writer, director, and actor, creator with his writing partner, Patrick Casey of the Sonic the Hedgehog films, also Golden Insatiable we didn't talk about, and a movie that doesn't get enough attention. Hey, Stop Stabbing Me. When are we going to see that one updated, Josh?
Since we last spoke, that now has a 20th anniversary restored Blu-ray from Severin Films, one of my favorite boutique Blu-ray companies. So if you go to Severin, that's Severin, you can get Hey Stop Stabbing Me on Blu-ray, loaded up with bonus features, including a whole other feature film that we made, the ultimate bonus feature.
And of course, go see Violent Night.
Go see Violent Night
in theaters right now.
And then buy Hey Stop Stab Me on Blu-ray. Perfect stocking stuffer.
So, Josh, where can people find out about what you're working on? Anything? Can they follow you online?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, mostly posting pictures of books I'm reading.
Nice.
At Josh S. Miller. I joined Twitter a month ago, just in time for the whole thing to implode. There, I'm Josh Miller Light, like the beer.
Hey, by the way, I just did want to say hello from Natalie Misali. She worked with you on a podcast. She was producing a podcast with you.
Oh, yeah.
She was supposed to be on the show tonight, but she's very disappointed. She's very, very busy on another production right now.
Yeah, you can also check out my podcast, Best Movies Never Made.
I was going to ask you about it. Good. Best Movies Never Made. All right, Cheeseman, where can people follow you?
Well, you can find me at the Hallmark store continually buying Sonic ornaments or Sega Genesis stuff. That's on my tree right now. You got a Sonic and Tails, Knuckles, and this year they have the Sonic.
Yeah, I was looking at that Sega console ornament.
Yeah,
I didn't quite understand how it worked in the picture. Now I understand seeing your photo of it.
And I think they have some ornaments from your film as well. That
they do. There's now an official movie Sonic. Since I guess there is a distinction.
Nice.
Yeah, you need to get those. But you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cheese on Couch and also theconguy.com.
Ben, take us out of here.
All right, everybody. Unfortunately, I'm not drinking out of my red cup tonight. I have my blue Yeti. Keeping it cold.
What's going on, Ben? What's going on?
I don't know. I'm just, it's winter, it's cold, there's seasonal affective disorder, whatever. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching the podcast tonight or listening wherever you are listening all over the world. We love you all. We thank you so much for tuning in. And again, thank you to our host of our program, That Hashtag Show. Yep. Brought to you, as always, by our sponsor, Neft Vodka, reminding you to please drink responsibly. And I guess what I'm going to say is this is the podcast. This is the Con Guy podcast or the Pod Guy Concast.
No,
the Con Guy podcast. We cover all things nerd and pop culture. Thank you again for listening. My name is Ben Cleaver. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at BenKliewer or at bencleaver.com, or you can search the hashtag on social media at hashtag BK421. And I'm not drinking out of a red cup, but usually I am, because whenever Ben Cleaver shows up, it's always a party. Good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody. May your holidays be violet. Bye-bye.
Season's beatings.
Thanks for listening to The Con Guy Show, the official program of theconguy.com. Find us on the Weeby Geeks Collective or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And now on sci-fi.radio, Saturdays at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, both AM and PM. That's 9 o'clock Greenwich. It's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi.